Hello and welcome back to A Shark's Perspective. Many marketers today focus their SEO efforts solely on their websites, and it's a limiting view even though they believe they have more control. But you're probably looking to expand your brand's discoverability and lead volume to go along with that thought leadership you've got to share. Like everywhere else your message is, a website is one channel, a big channel no less, but where else should that content exist to help your business grow? Garrett Mehrguth is the co-founder and CEO of Directive, a search marketing agency for enterprise brands. And on this episode, we'll discuss SEO, link building, guest posting, podcasting, Peugeot mopeds, soccer, hamburgers and ERPs, content clusters, agencies serving those large brands at the local level, review sites, Rand Fishkin, the fear of the unknown, and a lot more. So let's tune in to an SEO CEO with a search engine shark on this episode of A Shark's Perspective. Garrett, thank you so much for joining me today on A Shark's Perspective. If you would, give me a little bit about your background and your story today.
Oh, yeah, man. Thanks for having me. Glad to be here. So I started this journey into kind of search marketing, performance marketing, digital, all of that about 6 years ago. I was playing soccer at the university. I tore my MCL. I was like, okay, what am I going to do? There goes pro. I don't even know if I was going to make it, but I always had this kind of mantra, especially when I was younger. I always just kind of looked at how people assumed what I knew. And then I figured if I could use that, to charge for a service. So when I was growing up, everybody knew me as a soccer player. So I trained their kids on soccer. And then, I was wanting to start my own consulting business. So when I was at Azusa Pacific, I graduated in 3 years. I did my master's in a year. I was a decent student. And I applied to Boston, Bain, McKinsey, Deloitte, and just got like an auto response. Pretty much like all the consulting firms I tried to apply to didn't want me. And when I went to apply in their portals, they had like my school didn't exist. I was like, that's not a good sign. They don't tell you that when you commit
It's
to
not in the
going there.
brochure. Yeah.
Yeah, no, they leave that out as any high level corporate employment you might pursue is not valid. So I essentially said, forget those guys. I'll build my own firm and they'll have to acquire me. I don't know why I thought like that or even wanted that because the shoe was. But so I got on my 1978 Peugeot 103 SP moped and started driving around Azusa, California. It's not exactly the most booming industry type area. So a bunch of small businesses, found a Mediterranean shop. I like their shawarma, so I figured they'd be perfect. Told them, hey, you need a Facebook page. You need Yelp. I can help you. Let me do these things for you, right? I was still, I had a couple freelancing gigs with people in my network. I was working in the event staff, tearing down chairs and stuff like that. I was working at the Chamber of Commerce. I had doing all this stuff. So then I got this client and worked for him for 30 days, got his Yelp page, got his Facebook, was starting to do the website. And it was the 30th day. I came in for my check. He said, come back tomorrow. Came back. The whole place was boarded up. So that is Directive's very first account. From there, I kind of just was a little, I think, depressed and kind of sad about it all. Then I started messing around on Fiverr. I started selling social media calendars for $5. At the time, I'm 21, 22, 21, I think, at this time. And finally got a hookah shop. Hookah shop wants me to build a website. He says, hey, I want a ring. I never heard of this. I figured, hey, I'll try it out. Never done this before. So I went on Moz. I went on Search Engine Land. I went on all the kind of publications on SEO. And I learned how I read everything. I had this little saying that called learn, engage, create. So if I could learn something new every day, engage with it, I could create more value for myself and for my company and for my clients. And so from that, I ranked him number one for all the terms he wanted. I figured, wow, that was pretty cool. I went to my best friend, whose dad was a plumber, just like a kind of one truck plumber, small business. And I said, hey, introduce me, to your dad. I'd love to do a meeting. I think I can help him. Here's my case study. He saw it. He liked it. Him and I were best friends since freshman year of high school. I told him to not go to law school, join the company. And then, fast forward. Now, we have some amazing brands, over 50 employees, and we work with just mid-market and enterprise. Took about 5 years.
So what position did you play in soccer?
Outside back. Yeah, so I was playing outside back. I had a good stamina and could run and create and defend. And yeah, it's fun.
All right, good man. So you worked with a lot of local brands to start, like everybody else, and it's one of the things I love about SEO is this is stuff we learn all the time and get better and get access to Moz and their brilliant levels of research, and it helps everybody else. Why did you switch from those local mom and pop shops that grew into more of B2B space? Isn't that where you are now?
Yeah, yeah. So at 23, I think I was, yeah, 23. I got blessed, lucky, and got Allstate as a client.
Nice.
And when we did that, so we kind of brand ourselves as local. We became Moz Local Recommended. I was speaking at conferences by now, um, and doing a lot of content, a lot of guest posting, just a lot of just constant thought leadership. And in doing so, we kind of got a lot of local clients. Now, one of the issues with local is I'm obsessed with quality. And I never wanted to be a scaled up agency that essentially had a high volume of accounts to headcount. I just didn't see how you could do world class work. There's like a direct correlation between quality and price in the agency world.
Sure.
And one of the issues with local is there's a ceiling that you get to if you can't get multi-location franchise type accounts, and those were harder, few and far between in your positioning and your marketing in the local space. In other words, if you say you're local, 99.9% are mom and pops, and 0.01% is Home Depot. And so that positioning was really hard for us to grow our average order value. So we shifted away from that into B2B.
Yeah, but what about large restaurant chains, State Farm dealerships, the insurance guy near you and me?
Yeah, yeah. So a couple things. So like I've had Allstate since then. I'm on a pretty tight non-compete, so I can't really touch any of the major players in
Sure,
insurance.
sure,
So
sure.
that was rough, number one. And then number two, the dealership guys are dealership guys. If you've ever worked with one, you know exactly what I'm saying. The lawyers are lawyers. If you've ever worked with one, you know what I'm saying. The real estate people are real estate people. If you ever worked with one, you know what I'm saying. And my point is all the verticals and the restaurants have no budget, which is ironic despite their size, because we did have a couple large players at the time and they just didn't have spend allocated. So really what happened was it was just very difficult for us to increase retainer size and then keep delivering exceptional work as we tried to hire better talent. And so it just honestly, it was really, really difficult. I think anyone who's in the local space, if they've cracked the code and done full enterprise, I mean, that's amazing. But it's pretty tough. I know some players in the space that I have good relationships with, and they're still smaller agencies because there's just not that many big accounts for them to have, especially with the way non-competes work.
Yeah, I did it on the brand side as well, and I've done that and worked with large enterprises. I think the biggest allure that everybody has to learn is that just because it might be called, McRestaurant, to your point, they don't have a giant McBudget. It is they're
Yeah,
most time they're
yeah,
locally owned. They're franchises, and the
correct.
franchises aren't spending a
Exactly.
bazillion dollars, but it does give you an opportunity to leverage some. I mean, the lift alone from having the name, just for this example alone, McDonald's over, which is probably a detriment depending on which way you look at their food, but just the brand value of having McDonald's as opposed to, Bob's local restaurant, in search.
That's a great
Yeah.
account, right? But it's tough because you get the national account, right? There's no budget at the local or franchise level, so you get it as a national account. But then they discount every new location off your retainer. And so you don't even get to economies of scale because you still have to service them locally due to the way a search engine works. And so you end up doing essentially 5,000 franchises at, $1,000 a pop, and you think that's great, but then each one of those franchises has an individual point of
Oh
contact.
yeah.
It just unravels really quickly, from like a margin standpoint as an agency. It's kind of tough.
It is. It is. So now that you're in the B2B space, tell me about the experience that you've really had with SEO for driving growth for brands as opposed to maybe what you've necessarily done with PPC. And it doesn't have to be a question of one over the other. I just mean
Yeah,
which one it appears at least that SEO is a little more of a passion for you with the work that you do.
yeah, I have a little more hands-on
Sure.
experience in SEO, leading our own SEO, doing a lot of guest posting and content. I guess if you do a lot of thought leadership, kind of like being on this
Exactly.
podcast now, you end up leaning towards SEO just due to the nature of link building is just
Yeah.
PR, right? And that's just thought leadership in the agency space. So you end up just doing SEO a lot. But no, what I think so beautiful about search right now is like SEO and PPC are blending. And there's this, hopefully, for the audience listening, a new way of thinking, which is getting away from this idea of how can I rank my website? Okay. Getting away from that idea and getting into the idea of how can I make my brand discoverable? You see, if you're McDonald's, if we go back to that analogy earlier, your ability to rank as a McDonald's website for hamburger in Orange County or hamburger in Austin is actually exceptionally low. The truth is review sites are going to rank exceptionally well. Google My Business is going to rank exceptionally well. The mobile whole layout of the SERP is going to be ads above the fold. And so if your idea is that SEO in isolation through the lens of just your website is going to drive results, whether you're McDonald's or you're one of our SaaS clients, because we work mostly, in the software space, you're missing, I think, the crux of why SEO came to exist, right? If we go into 1997, we have the search engine, Google's coming up, and people want to know, hey, when people search for the product or service I sell, how can I show up? And then the answer was, well, you need a website. Okay, so everybody's going to GoDaddy and HostGator and Bluehost and the rest of them, right? We're making our websites and we're doing this, we're doing that. And then everything changed. And I call this the Yelp and the Amazon effect. Okay. We essentially democratized purchasing decisions. We said that we trust what other people like ourselves say about a product or a service, not what you say as the company. And Google knows this, right? So Google knows about the Yelp and the Amazon effect. Google knows that if people are looking at reviews for $4 smoothies, they're going to look at reviews for $250,000 software. And so G2 pops up, Capterra pops up, Software Advice pops up. All these different review sites, and there's a review site for every niche in the world, I guarantee it, okay? These show up, and what happens is when you take your most profitable terms, right? Let's say you're an ERP software, and you layer that with purchase intent. In other words, ERP plus top. ERP, so it's top ERP software, best ERP software reviews. When you modify your query and have purchase intent, this is when you have your highest cost per clicks in Google Ads. This is when you have your best conversions. This is when you have those quick, lead to close. All of these things, individual websites aren't ranking for anymore. So if you go type these things into a search engine, what you're going to find is that these review sites are dominating. And frankly, most marketers are still so concerned with their website when it comes to SEO that they haven't realized they need to pivot their effort to their brand. And when you do that, you see tremendous success.
Yeah, now I would agree with that to some degree, though I question whether or not words like best and top, and especially any non-branded keywords. I mean, I'm not looking for necessarily a hamburger or best or top ERP. To some degree, there are going to be some variation of just discovering and then the rest of the SEO efforts that pull them in to keep them moving down that funnel. So if I'm looking up SAP, for example, as an ERP software, am I necessarily going to spend a lot of time just doing an initial search when, there are a lot of marketers who know who SAP is? It might be delivering that next level of content and SEO efforts to pull them into the fold.
Yeah, I think the thing isn't that like SEO is dead at all, right? That's not what I'm proposing. I mean, I have a whole entire business built around SEO. It's the concept of how you're going to see success at an opportunity level. See, one of the biggest problems as well, right, for people in software and marketers in general is not acquisition, but activation, right? And so essentially what I found is you don't need to activate people that are at the bottom of the funnel, and that's why you can essentially impact pipeline so much with this approach. Simultaneously, you're right. Once you are positioned at the bottom of the funnel, it's important that you start to go up and start to use essentially phrase match. You start to mine your search term report, and you start to pull out these topics that are kind of create clusters around your products. So not only explicitly people looking for your product, but maybe how they apply it, the industries it's in, use cases, benefits, things like that. So yeah, once you essentially are positioned, now what I like to do is go up the funnel. Unfortunately, a lot of times people start at the top and they generate demand, but they aren't positioned to capture it. And then they see diminishing marginal returns from their efforts or their ad spend.
Yeah, well, we did use the worst comparison of all time. I mean, between a hamburger and an ERP. But that's that's another story. So how do you sort of approach now today non-click searches? I mean, that's something that Rand Fishkin, sort of an SEO god in this space, if you will, he's well known for talking about non-click searches and so many people bouncing once they go to Google and look up something and then go directly to the website as opposed to clicking on it, or maybe they are pulling up Yelp on their own as opposed to running through an ad that they click on.
Yeah, I mean, this is kind of my whole point of starting with what I said, is that if you get rid of the idea that your website's important and get into the idea that your brand's most important, you don't care if it's a no click or a click, right? Most people aren't media companies where they're making money on a CPM or reselling ad space so that they need
Exactly.
the click, right? Majority of people just need someone interested in their product or service. And so if we can humble ourselves as marketers and do the opposite of being data backed and say, it's okay that I don't know where all my leads come from, but I know that if I put myself in my customer's shoe and I change my location to every major market based off of what I'm seeing in GA, and I look at how discoverable I am and what happens when the query is localized, and I'm showing up everywhere, even if it's not just my website, I know for a fact that's impacting my pipeline. And so one of the craziest parts of all of this and becoming exceptional at search marketing is being okay with it not being about your website. And once you truly get that, that allows you to say, look, I don't have the most authoritative website, so I can't rank for my most difficult keywords. What I'm going to do is I'm going to go guest post for search engine land or marketing land around my most top of funnel, highest difficulty terms with the most volume. And then I'm going to control the narrative. I'm going to guest post on that. I'm going to control what people should think about it, the perspective they should have, the questions they should ask. And then I'm going to position myself to be discovered, right? So creativity comes from when you unhinge yourself from the idea that your role is to optimize your website. And then if you optimize your brand, then your website's just one of the spokes on the brand wheel, and you become very powerful as a demand gen or
So are
search
you
marketer.
finding that a lot of brands today still don't want to do that? I mean, are they just devoted only to their own blogs?
Not that they don't want to do it, it's the unknown. It's the problem is a lot of the way you have to report as an in-house marketer. Okay, so a lot of the times you get reported over year metrics. And if Google's taking away your web traffic, it looks like you're struggling year over year. And so what people end up doing is they keep putting more and more assets into their website instead of natively publishing things on social where they're going to see more success than 3 lines and a link to a blog post, because that's not how social works anymore, right? So the idea historically was everything has to be on my website so I can own it, I can get the data, I can build audiences, I can build retargeting lists, I can do all these things. And it's this monolithic idea that you can somehow control your audience. And if instead you say, I want to love on, embrace, and be where my audience is no matter what, it just changes your perspective. And unfortunately, no, most brands right now still aren't there. Most of them are still trying to get people into their website so that they can convert them instead of trying to educate, love, empower, communicate, and be a brand to their audience and allow their audience to come to them, which is kind of the irony.
So how do you help position somebody that's, let's just use the example then in the B2B space, something like an ERP type technology or whatever the type of tech it is? How are you getting them to basically end up conversions on whatever traffic they're getting? I mean, what's the lead gen play for you?
So I want to get away from the idea of conversions first and foremost, because conversions are the death of this strategy. Because conversions are a byproduct of saying, "Look what I did with my website
Well, let me back
traffic,"
that up then.
and there's no.
Where do you want to
Yeah.
position them so that somebody can ultimately make a sale?
So essentially, what I want to do is I want to look at historical opportunities, proposals, demos, whatever that is given, and then I want to look at essentially revenue, right? So opportunities, deals, and revenue. So I want to look at those historicals, get those benchmarked. Then what I want to do is I want to take my spend, let's say at the advertising level, and I want to analyze essentially. Ideally, I should have Google Click ID so I can do full integration. I should have HubSpot to Salesforce, Marketo to Salesforce, Pardot to Salesforce, whatever that is, so I can see essentially and get away from in-platform metrics like cost per conversion and get into sales metrics like cost per opportunity, cost per deal, right? And then I want to model it on a CAC to LTV model. So once I have my modeling in place, I understand my financial kind of foundation and where I'm at. Now I need to reallocate spend. The easiest, fastest wins you have is just repositioning where you're spending your money. The second thing you have is where you're spending your time. So then what I want to do is ask myself, how discoverable am I when my customer searches, my ideal customer persona searches for my most profitable terms in my Google Ads account? Okay, so I take my search term report, I pull out all my most profitable terms, I then localize those queries to all the major markets where I'm seeing the most success. And then I ask myself, who shows up and am I one of those brands? Okay, my vision for all of this is that I pass the tab test. In other words, when a CMO or a decision maker, a chief information officer, goes to one of their managers and says, get me 3 quotes, we need a new agency, I'm one of the 3 tabs that point of contact, that champion has. You see, the biggest mistake in digital right now is we want to sell to decision makers, and that's not how the decision makers buy. They buy through their champions. And so what we really have to do is market to our future point of contact. Okay. So once I'm positioned and I'm one of those 3 companies, and meaning that on the top 5 results for every query that's profitable for me, my brand's discoverable if that's possible. Now, if individual websites are ranking, that goes into my SEO strategy. So any of the terms that I want to rank for, if I see individual websites ranking, it's part of my SEO strategy. If I see review sites ranking, it's part of my brand strategy, right? And all I'm asking myself is, am I perfectly discoverable when there's purchase intent for my ideal customer persona? Now, once I have that done, I'm going to go upstream. I'm going to go into LinkedIn. Okay. From there, what I'm going to do is I'm going to map out my total addressable market using LinkedIn Sales Navigator. So I'm going to find employee headcount. I'm going to find my titles. I'm going to find my locations. I'm going to create a real life audience. And now I'm going to go into my paid social platforms like LinkedIn, Facebook, Twitter, and others, and then map and see if I can get my social audience to match my real life audience. Now I have market fit. From here, now I'm going to start to drive awareness. Now I'm going to interact with them on social with my brand. I'm going to send them in mail. I'm going to run lead gen campaigns on LinkedIn that are personified. And now that I have the top of funnel, I'm driving awareness and I can capture that awareness at the bottom. I'm going to pump pipeline, and within 2 quarters, I'll completely change the ROI on digital.
So another post that I saw that you've done was your top trends in SEO. Is there anything that you're looking at today what are your top SEO trends that you seem to rinse, wash, repeat over and over and over that work for you?
Yeah, I think podcasts are
Yeah.
great, man. So like being on this show is huge because, it's one of the easiest types of content to make as a creator because you get to talk about your experiences and your thoughts and your opinions. Number one. Number two, the producers need you, right? Your whole show, right? Because relying upon guests. And so it's a lot easier pitch to win than maybe a guest post, right?
Yeah.
So, think building via podcast, growing your brand via podcast is a great thing. Is a trend definitely. Content clusters.
Well, let
So,
me back you up on that real quick. So you do that for
oh yeah.
your agency, and it works well.
Mm-hmm.
What are you running into with your own clients and getting them positioned with being on other podcasts? Because it's a lot different in the branded world where the communications team jumps in for a brand and does want you to be on or doesn't want you to be on a podcast.
It's more finding someone there who wants to do it is actually the issue. It's actually easier for them. I mean, they're a big brand. It's good for the podcast to have, a leader from a large brand on the pod. So no, it's more just getting someone who wants to do it. I'm a hustler,
Oh, I
so
bet.
I love sharing knowledge and educating and hopefully helping people. But it's more getting buy-in. Securing them opportunities is actually easier. It's just if they
Sure.
want to do it.
What about other forms?
Yeah. So I mean, another trend I think that I'm seeing is really clusters.
Yeah.
So like backing yourself from your products, like finding your most profitable products or services or verticals, and then essentially creating content based around your research or your demand or your feature set or whatever that is. But really understanding, okay, when people want X, what other questions do they have, right? There's tools like Answer the Public that are great for that. You can use the keyword magic tool in SEMrush and do the phrase match. You can type it into Google and then put the underscore after it. That's called the wildcard.
Mm-hmm.
All of these help you show questions related to the primary topic or that product or that service. And then essentially, you can create that content. So if you search like PPC agency and you put an underscore, one of the things you used to see a lot was pricing, right? So then you're like, okay, cool, I want to rank for PPC agency. And I know that one of the most important things people wonder is pricing. Cool, let's do a definitive guide to PPC agency pricing, right? And now you're doing this buyer journey driven content that feeds into your service line. And that's just one example.
Sure. Well, to jump right quick back into content and those clusters, I know one of the things that I saw that you spoke about at Digital Summit included improving creating content. When you look at the things you've talked about today, whether you had a blog piece or something on somebody else's site, if you have one piece of content and limited dollars or limited time, at least with the content somebody's taking and putting together now, do you really tend to push it more on their own website or tend to push your clients to go post that elsewhere, whether it's like what we were talking about with link building through a third-party podcast or some other form, something written on Forbes or Entrepreneur or some other example like that?
Yeah, no, that's a great question. You just have to ask yourself, I think, what's the leverage, right? So if you have you're a startup, you're a new website, the content you create can't rank and you have no audience.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so you have to choose what stage you're at. So when I was just first getting started, I did all guest posting. So if I did 10 posts, 9 were guest posts and 1 was my post, and I linked back to my post from my 9 guest posts, and now my 1 post could rank, you see.
Mm-hmm.
And so essentially you just have to do it in stages. See where I'm at today. Now I'm pivoting most of my content away from being on guest posts and being owned content. And then I'm focusing on how do I activate those readers into a community so that it's not about acquisition and it's more focused on activation, right? And so as you go through stages of your organization or your marketing department, you can kind of pivot. I think when starting, it's really important to build authority, awareness, and audience. And then once you get more towards the maturity, it's more about community activation and brand. And so you just kind of have to see where you are on that spectrum.
Yeah, it's a great point. It's something I ran into a while back, whether or not I wanted to spend time writing a blog on my own site or posting on Forbes or Entrepreneur or anywhere else like that, or Inc., any of those. It's just the opposite point of view when you talk about it. For most people, not podcasters, but if you wanted to do a podcast, it's kind of an opposite argument. For a lot of people, it makes zero sense to start their own podcast, when it makes a lot more sense sometimes to just write your own blog, and vice versa. I guess it depends on the instance. But one other thing I wanted to ask you to kind of unpack was what you mean by increasing SERP visibility and then expanding.
Yeah, so increasing SERP visibility is just going back to that idea of like when you map out your ideal customer's journey, right? Here's the pervasive logic and why I kind of talk about this stuff so much. People in SEO, people in content have this idea that the way you drive more results for your business is to increase the amount of keywords you rank for. You've probably heard that before, right?
Oh, yeah.
Now, unfortunately, right, once you get away from your primary keywords, there's actually diminishing marginal returns from every net new term because it's going higher and higher up funnel or further and further away from your persona. What you need to do is take your most profitable terms and go and expand. In other words, it's not about how many keywords you show up for, it's how many times your brand shows up for the right keywords. So instead of trying to increase results from essentially growing market share across a breadth of terms, you want to grow your market share by showing up in a depth of terms that have more purchase intent and are stronger to your persona. And so by going deeper instead of wider, you see a lot more success from the search engine.
Great. Garrett, you're in Austin, Texas. Not a lot of sharks in any waters nearby, but ask this of all my guests since you're on a shark's perspective. What is your favorite kind of shark and why?
Blue shark. So I have a fishing boat in California. I'm from there originally, like a small little fishing boat. And I love to go to Catalina. It's a 20-foot skipjack. And I got a fly bridge on the top, and then I got a full fishing setup and a bait tank and all that. And so I actually caught a blue shark out off one of the rocky points, kind of off in Newport, and I ate it. It was great. So no, blue shark is my favorite shark.
You're supposed to take off the hook and let it back in. You can't eat them. That's
that didn't know.
well, Garrett. Well, you'll know next time. Well, Garrett, it's that special time of the show. Are you ready for the 5 most interesting and important questions that you're going to be asked today?
All right, thanks.
All right, number 1, SEO or PPC?
Both.
Now you got to pick one or the other. Sophie's choice.
SEO, just because I think it gives you a broader lens
Fair enough.
to your brand.
Fair enough. Number 2, binge watching question. So we got a lot more time because of COVID. It's made people kind of reprioritize their Netflix list. Stranger Things or Narcos, and I'll even throw in Narcos Mexico as well.
Oh, Narcos.
Yeah, good. It's a good show. Number 3, soccer question since you played. Cristiano Ronaldo or Lionel Messi?
Messi.
Good man. Number 4, Moz or SEM Rush?
SEO Rush, Moz's platform got worse. I love their content, but their tools is not as good anymore. I mean, SEM
Yeah.
Rush isn't even accurate. I'd say Ahrefs. So if people are listening,
Oh,
I'd
good
go to
point.
Ahrefs.
Yeah, good point. And the most important question that you're going to be asked today is biscuits or cornbread?
Cornbread.
Why so?
I don't know. You can throw it in your chili and it's great.
There you go. All right, so Garrett, where can people find out more about you, hear about your thought leadership, see you speak, and more?
Yeah, man. Anywhere. Honestly, I'm on Twitter pretty active, LinkedIn. I do speak at every digital summit in the country they had me at this year. I don't know when that's going to be. And LinkedIn and Twitter, though, mostly I'm sharing my stuff on LinkedIn and Twitter. I try to post something daily. So if you're looking for tips around just deeper thinking for SaaS marketing, how to leverage search marketing for demand generation, I constantly share stuff there and try to add a ton of value to people. So feel
Awesome.
free to check it out. And yeah, if you want to learn how to do any of this, we have a course called the Directive Institute. It's only $39 a month. And we literally give away all of our tips, tactics, approaches, models, frameworks, spreadsheets. Everything's there. $39 a month. You can learn everything from SEO, PPC, analytics, PR, all of it.
Awesome. Garrett, thank you so much for being with us today on A Shark's Perspective.
Oh, thanks for having me, man. Great to be here.
So there was my conversation with Garrett Mehrguth, the co-founder and CEO of Directive, a search marketing agency for enterprise brands. Let's take a look at 3 key takeaways from my conversation with him. First, appreciated the discussion, especially with how small agencies get excited about the allure of the large brands and then see so many of them have a local or franchise ownership at the local level. And as exciting as having a huge brand name on your roster is, it's just such a lot of work at the local level. He said it's difficult to increase retainer size and still deliver exceptional results when local. And what I liked in particular with that is, at least our discussion, is that he conveyed the need to deliver exceptional results, and that's the main point. So many agencies focus too much on growth, and then the service level falls off a cliff. And that's a big problem for any entrepreneur wanting to scale, whether it's an agency or any kind of brand. What we should expect going forward is a continued high level of service regardless of how that company grows. And unfortunately, too many people get too focused on the allure of growth without delivering to their customer the level of service. Second, I really appreciate how he acknowledged that SEO and PPC are blending together. They always were, but it's hard for a lot of folks to unchannel that, if you will, and understand that SEO alone won't drive results. I like as well that he's saying that too many people are simply thinking SEO terms about ranking their website, and they need to pivot to brand so they can see success at a higher level. Building your brand and your categories is just so incredibly important. I could go on talking about this one on 100 different episodes, whether we're talking SEO alone or search terms that rank on Google or deliver on PPC ads. It's just so incredibly important today. Third, another topic is where to put your content. His efforts, like many, have been posting elsewhere on other sites, and that's a great point. The value of posting elsewhere is still very important for discoverability and link building, and he's working on it as well with podcasting, and his team's working to get him to appear on other people's podcasts. I speak about this at a lot of conferences now as well. There's such a huge value to not doing your own podcast in order to get the word out, or even the SEO word out, and really letting your thought leadership show on other people's podcasts and their websites. For many, it's the fear of losing that control, but such a value in terms of SEO and link building. Though one point of dispute is that there are a lot of podcasters out there who struggle to find guests. I, as you know, haven't been one of those, as you've seen from the sheer volume of shows I've put out in just a few years. But it's an important acknowledgement, at least to consider for entrepreneurs who want to build their online presence. Got a question? Send me an email to kenneth@asharksperspective.com. Thank you again for the privilege of your time. Hey, remember that we're all doing the best we can at times like these. Just do the best that you can, and that's all that's important. And join us on the next episode of A Shark's Perspective.